Hello everyone and welcome back to another Essential Album video. We're now on week 14 and this week we're taking a look at The Doors, self-titled, first released January 4th, 1967. Some notable tracks on this album include Break On Through, To the Other Side, Soul Kitchen, Light My Fire, and The End. I think I first listened to this album in full maybe in 1996. I think my grandparents had mailed back to us a bunch of my parents' old records, this being among them. And we had a turntable at the time. I obviously still have a newer turntable now. But I remember first putting this on, like sometime in like the summer of 1996, and really enjoying it. And then obviously getting into more of the Doors music throughout kind of like the rest of my life and so on. I think the first time I ever heard the Doors, though, like that I can recall was on the soundtrack to Forrest Gump, which was a couple years before that. So Break On Through, To the Other Side is on that soundtrack, and I had that CD. I want to say I got that soundtrack in like 1995 or so, and then about a year later listened to the album that it came off of. I have some notes here about this album. We'll get to those, and then we will get through like the track list and all that kind of stuff. So we just get our notes open here. All right, there we go. Like I mentioned earlier, first released January 4th, 1967. This is their self-titled debut album. So apparently before recording this album, they were initially signed to Columbia. And I think they got like released after like 6 months because like they were under contract with Columbia. Columbia didn't match them up with a producer for their record. So they asked to be released. They got released, and then they would eventually sign with Elektra, but I think for a while they kind of floated around between. I think my research service was the London Fog and Whiskey A Go Go. They were under residencies for those venues. I think they're like on like the Sunset Strip in LA. Last time I was in LA a couple years back, but didn't go into the Whiskey A Go Go, but I walked past it on my way to some other stuff. But it's an iconic venue in Hollywood for like just music. People have been playing there for forever, basically. But they were signed to a residency there. I think they also played the London Fog. I don't know exactly where that one is. I don't think I've ever been to that venue or been around it. But that's when they got picked up by Elektra. So Elektra signed them. And from my research, I think in this, they were eventually fired from the Whiskey A Go Go due to them performing The End. The End is the final track on the album. Performing The End there. Sorry, excuse me. Because I think it relates to like the Oedipus Rex story, and maybe the venue had an issue with the content. The content of that story is pretty messed up. I remember reading that story, or what you want to call it, in like an English, like one of my English classes in like my sophomore year of high school or something like that. And I remember we had like a huge like paper that we, or like a big like final test in that class about that story. Sorry, excuse me again. But after they left there, they were now under contract with like I said with Elektra. They recorded the album at Sunset Sound, and it took about a week to record the album. And this is kind of like one of the key albums, I think, if you're like looking into like psychedelic rock. This is like one of the key albums. Like I think Revolver by the Beatles is also considered to be like that. I've listened to both of those recently, and they both fit that kind of style. One thing I really like about this album is, the songs start off. They have like their like a verse, maybe like a little bit of a chorus, and then a lot of the other songs almost feel like the band is just kind of jamming, even though I wouldn't really consider them to be like a jam. They're not a jam band, but like some of the songs are fairly kind of on the long side. Like "Light My Fire," I think is like around 7 minutes long. The End is pretty long as well. We'll get to the lengths when we get to the actual track list. But some of those songs, like in the middle, just have this huge like soundscape that you kind of can just get lost in. And then kind of like toward the end of the song, they bring it back around to kind of like the way that the song started. So like it feels like you're going kind of on a journey from the beginning of the song to the end, and in the middle there's just this huge psychedelic soundscape on most of the songs. I think like Soul Kitchen does that, at least for me. Light My Fire, The End. Some of the songs like 20th Century Fox, not particularly on that track. I don't really feel that one gets too kind of out there like with the psychedelic rock. That song is pretty straightforward. But a few of the songs like the Crystal Ship, I think does that. Even though like some of the songs aren't very long, or they're not like incredibly long, they you still feel like you get kind of like sucked in and kind of just um, you're basically just kind of like letting this psychedelic soundscape kind of wash over you. It's pretty incredible. There was a quote from Jim Morrison I want to bring up here about the end, kind of one of the more iconic tracks on the album. And his quote was, quote, "Every time I hear the end, it means something else to me. It started out as a simple goodbye song, probably just to a girl. But I see how it could be a goodbye to a kind of childhood. I really don't know. I think it's sufficiently complex and universal in its imagery that it could be almost anything you want it to be." That's kind of like just like relates to like music. Like you can sing a song and 100 people will sing the song back to you for 100 different reasons. You can kind of throw your own interpretation on like that particular song or any song by any artist for that matter. But yeah, the end is kind of just like it's like almost like poetry in a way. Like there's like a lot of like spoken word stuff, and I kind of just take it means be like it's the final song on the album, but it could just be like maybe like an era has ended. It could be like related to like the end of an era, something like that. But just a kind of really kind of notable song on the album. Light My Fire. I think that song is like 7 minutes long, and like apparently like a lot of radio stations were getting requests for it. And obviously, a 7 minute song for a radio station is just too long. So they ended up shortening that one for radio. We're now going to move into the kind of the reviews, some scores here. And this album is pretty much just like universally acclaimed. These are more contemporary reviews, so like not when the album necessarily came out. These are more retrospective. Um, it's kind of cited as a kind of a like I said a key album in the psychedelic rock genre. But AllMusic has it at a 5 out of 5. American Songwriter 5 out of 5. Encyclopedia of Music or Encyclopedia of Popular Music again 5 out of 5 of them. The Great Rock Discography has it at a 9 out of 10. Far Out has it at a 5 out of 5. Music Hound Rock has it at a 4 out of 5. Rolling Stone 5 out of 5. Rolling Stone Album Guide a 4 out of 5. Slant has it at a 4 out of 5 and a B minus from the Village Voice. Now we're going to move into our track listing here. So the total length of the album is about 43 minutes and 34 seconds. Track 1 is Break On Through to the Other Side. That's kind of an iconic track, one of their most well known. Probably the first song I remember hearing from them because, like I said, it was on the Forrest Gump soundtrack. Track 2 is Soul Kitchen. It's not even that long, but like you definitely kind of like toward the middle of that song, you just get sucked into that psychedelic soundscape. So track 2 is Soul Kitchen. Track 3 is The Crystal Ship. And that's only like 2.5 minutes, but it feels like the song feels longer, and I mean that in a good way. Track 4 is 20th Century Fox. Track 5 is Alabama Song, Whiskey Song. And then track 6 is Light My Fire, which is like 7 minutes long. Track 7 is Backdoor Man. Track 8 is I Looked at You. Track 9 is End of the Night. Track 10 is Take It As It Comes. And track 11 is The End. And that song is like 11.5 minutes. A lot of the other songs on the second side aren't as well known, I don't think. Like Backdoor Man might be the Backdoor Man and The End are probably like the most well known songs on that side. I really like Take It As It Comes because it's just a good song. But like a lot of like the major hits on the album are on the first side, like Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, Crystal Ship, Light My Fire. But this is just a classic album. I think definitely my favorite album from them. Like I've listened, I don't know if I've listened to everything they've done, but the other albums have all been good. But just this one, I think like was their absolute best. So debut album from the Doors. I can't go wrong with it. So that is going to do it for this episode or this video. We'll be back again in a week with another album. No idea what that's going to be just yet, but we'll be back in a week with that. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. And thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.